In today's video, I'm going to be talking about losing streaks, the one that I've just been on personally, and how you can overcome these losing periods in the market. Just to let you know, before we begin the video, I have a final sale at this price on my Trading Academy. In February, the prices are going up, but for 1 week, you can get 30% off. That ends on the 1st of February. So if you do want to join the Academy, you get access to my course, my community, the members area where there are bonus videos and online monthly meetups. Head over to the link in the description and you can save 30% on your lifetime plan to join the community. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today's topic is something a little bit different to usual, but a very important topic if you want to be a long-term, consistent, successful trader. Losing streaks happen to everyone. It doesn't matter if you've been trading for 1 week, 1 year, or 10 years. You are going to hit losing streaks. They never go away. So it's important to know how to handle yourself and your system when you hit a losing streak, so that you can continue to apply your system consistently until the losing streak ends and you pull in the good profit and actually make back the losses that you made on the streak. Losing streaks are generally not actually that bad. If you have your risk managed, you could lose 5 trades in a row and you could lose maximum 5%, potentially 2.5% if you're risking 0.5% risk, which is what I do and what I recommend you do if, for example, you trade funded accounts or you want to trade conservatively and very low risk. 1% risk is okay, but even then, a 5 trade losing streak is only 5% lost. It can look bad while it's happening, but when you think about it, that's a 5R trade. So you can make back 5 losses in a single winning trade, which will come around if you keep your discipline, you keep your mindset under control, and you continue to apply your system day in and day out. So first of all, I want to go through my losing streak. I've just been on a losing streak. I did 2 trades last week, both of them lost, and on Monday I had a losing trade, but all of those trades have now been wiped out by a single winner that I took yesterday. So what I'm going to do is break down the 3 losses, show you where I went wrong and what I've learned from those losses, and then show you the winning trade and how just simply applying the same system or your system over and over again will bring you the results that you want to see. So first things first, the losses you're going to see are all on my Asia liquidity trading system, right? This is where I look to trade price from a sweep of the Asia high into a sweep of the Asia low or vice versa. These 3 trades lost in a row. The system has had a bad couple of weeks, but before that, the system did 19.5R in 2 weeks. So I know my system. I know it brings good results long term. I have many months of data on this, but this obviously was just an unfortunate patch, which will come up if you are trading systematically. So this trade then was a EURUSD short, right? We pushed up above the Asia range. We then came back down, and we did push through this structure point. Now, I was looking at this from a medium time frame basis, around the 5 and 3 minutes. And after I saw this breakdown, I decided to set an order on the highs here, which, as we do see, after a little bit of consolidation, price just shot straight through. On reflection, looking at this trade, I probably should have looked for a break under this low, right? The reason that I should have done that I saw as the significant structure, kind of wasn't, because we still had this demand zone below, which had only just been lightly tested, and on the lower time frames, the 1 and 3 minute had not been retested. So to really see a shift in the trend, because that's what I'm looking for on these intraday moves, I would have actually preferred to see a breakdown of this low. At the time, I didn't think about it, and I did get taken out due to that. Essentially, we just come and push the liquidity under here, traded into this demand, and then we rocketed up. I can learn from this loss. I don't just have to take the loss and be sad. I can learn from it and think, okay, we didn't get the trade we wanted to, but what we could have done instead is wait for that deeper pull down so that I wouldn't have taken the loss because I've been in line with the trend. So the second losing trade I took was a couple of days later on Friday last week. This was EURUSD short. I know exactly where I went wrong with this one, and that was using a risk entry. Now, I would have preferred to use confirmation entry on this trade, but I thought it would be all right to go with the risk entry because I had to go to a meeting with an accountant. So in the end, I actually ended up taking a loss on this trade that could have very easily been avoided by waiting for confirmation. So my trade for this was something like this, and I was once again targeting the low of the Asia range. There was actually a demand zone somewhere just below, so I was looking at around this trade here, probably around 7R. I can't remember the exact trade levels now, but this is where I was looking to sell from, and that's where I was looking to target, just beneath this Asia low here. Basically, I was looking at the trend shifting into a downtrend, and I wanted to get a risk entry on. I thought this nice little supply area here would have been a very nice place to enter. Now, as it turns out, the market decided to just rally straight through. I wasn't active to manage the trade. I wasn't active to see it go down, and I wasn't active to actually wait for confirmation. But the mistake I made here was simply impatience. Rather than going with a risk entry on a trade like this, where we clearly have bullish structure, what I should have done is wait for that structure to shift. That would have confirmed the move. And in this instance where it didn't confirm, that would have kept me out from taking a loss. So notice how every time I take a loss, I can take a lesson from it, right? Rather than just getting mad that I lost a trade, blaming the markets, I can look back and see what did I do and what could I have done better. This is something you should be doing with your trades so that you can learn from every mistake and learn from every loss, and also build the strengths when your trades do win. And my third loss in the losing streak, the final trade in the losing streak, was this one on GBPUSD, which was a simple Asia liquidity sweep trade where we'd swept out the low, the liquidity down here, and now we were going to look for a push up to go and sweep out the high of the range as well. So my entry for this trade was actually in the extreme, somewhere down here, just because we had some low time frame liquidity here. And I wanted to see it pull back down after we broke these significant structure points, retest that area, and then make a push to the Asia high. As you will see, we did not do that. We just sold dramatically off, and that took out my stop. So that actually marked 3 trades lost in a row. Now, by this point, you might be thinking, why don't you take into account the larger trend? Why don't you take into account the overall high time frame picture when taking these Asia liquidity trades? Well, that is simply because the system works, right? You can remember that I said before this, trading purely this, no other methods except for the Asia liquidity runs, I have done 20R in 2 weeks. Passed that funding challenge, ran up some nice profits on my personal account as well, all in 2 weeks by following the system day in, day out. And that was only around 4 trades, right? And there was much more profit made in December as well. There was 11% collected there at 0.5% risk on this system, okay? So I will continue to follow my system. I don't need to change my system. And that is why I actually just keep in mind the current price action, because it works. When a losing streak comes in, that is one of the biggest things that you're going to feel for yourself is, man, does my system work? Does my system not work anymore? Is something broken? Do I need to start changing my system? No. If people tell you to change your system, ignore them. Focus on you and focus on the results that you've collected on your system. And if it shows that long term you're going to win, do not worry about a 3 or 4 or 5 trade losing streak, because they are going to happen every now and then. And when they do, they can be easily overcome and they can actually provide some valuable lessons. As I've said, the previous 2 trades could have been avoided. I actually didn't account for a demand zone on the first trade. That was my fault. The second trade was a risk entry. That was also my fault. This one was a textbook position, and unfortunately it did not work out. But as you can see from that, rather than thinking my system doesn't work, I've now gathered that, okay, my first 2 trades, the reason for loss was me. This last one, of course, was a systematic trade, did work very nicely. It just didn't play out for me. But the first 2 trades, 2 of my 3 losses were me. I was the fault there, not this, okay? So by actually picking apart the losses, you can see why did you lose. It's going to give you valuable lessons so you avoid making the mistakes in the future. And it's also going to rebalance your confidence in your system, because a lot of the time you're going to see the reason you lost was not because of the markets, but it was because of something that you did. So that leads me on to my next point. How do you deal with the losing streaks, and how can you benefit from them, and how can you overcome them? Well, to deal with losing streaks, you need testing and you need previous data, right? Whether that's live trading data that you've collected, or it's back testing data that you've collected that shows your step-by-step system and your step-by-step process does work long term. If you have that, then you have a lot of confidence. You pretty much know that eventually, as long as you keep applying the system, it's going to turn around in your favor eventually, and a single trade can wipe out the losses. That's a very important thing to remember, is that you should be trading decent risk reward, right? We're talking 1 to 4, 1 to 5, 1 to 6 or more. If you're trading this risk reward, you can hit 3 losing trades in a row, and as soon as you win one, your profit is back. You don't have to worry about the losses you just encountered. They're all gone as soon as one trade is pulled in. Now, what can you learn from losing streaks? Well, as we've just seen, you can learn where you're going wrong, and then you can actually use that information to avoid making those mistakes again in the future. As humans, we are always going to make mistakes. They do come in, they do creep into trading, and sometimes you will repeat a mistake. But now, after seeing these trades, I obviously know it's a bad idea to approach a trade with a risk entry when I'm not actively able to manage it. I should not fight the trend, and I shouldn't actually sell using a risk entry on a trade like that where I'm actually looking for a reversal. It also taught me not to rush into positions, because the first trade I lost could have been easily avoided if I waited for a stronger structure break. I was probably too eager and too excited to get into a trade after a couple of very successful weeks, so I dived straight in and it didn't turn out for me. So that is definitely a few considerations that I've learned from this losing streak. And obviously I have this all journaled, I have this all noted down, so I can review these regularly along with my winning trades and see the good and the bad of the system in place, and the good and the bad of my personal decision making and intuition in place as well. So yesterday I overcame the whole losing streak with one single winning position. This was a position from my standard low time frame system, not my Asia liquidity system. I do have 3 systems that I implement into the markets. One of them is a swing trading system. I don't implement it too much. We are, of course, waiting on those. If you do regularly watch my videos, we do have a couple of swings coming up. The other is my standard low time frame trading system, which is very simple price action following systems, trading zone to zone, and actually trading throughout the intraday price action. And then the other one is that Asia liquidity system, which is the most simple and easy to apply system, which goes on in the morning. So this was the trade that overcame it all, and this was a standard low time frame trade. It wasn't a Asia liquidity run system trade. So the basis of this trade was essentially we had seen the market come into a demand zone here. We'd seen a very strong reaction, very bullish impulse, breaking previous structure. And from there, seeing this demand zone here, I wanted to try and trade EURUSD a bit higher. Now on Instagram, I actually shared shorts from this idea, which came in very, very nicely. There was an aggressive entry, perfect entry there, and then a conservative entry as well, where we broke this structure, pulled back into supply and sold off. I know a lot of people got these trades, but unfortunately for me, these trades were executed between 3 and 5 a.m. in the morning. So I wasn't awake. I missed these positions personally, but at least the information was there, and I saw a lot of people win from that. So that was a trade missed, but still a very solid set of analysis and a very solid price action formation there for us. You can see all of that information on my Instagram if you head over there if you want to see that trade broken down. But from there, we saw the sell-off. We came into this demand zone, and I was either expecting this demand zone to break through and continue into shorts, or if we got a strong reaction, we could potentially come up, push through the liquidity that we have here, this little roof of liquidity, and trade into this imbalanced supply zone before a larger sell-off. So after seeing this break and after seeing the demand zone respected and some structure breaks here with very strong impulsive upside price action, I decided to go ahead for a standard low time frame trade. I used the extreme zone, which is this zone down here, to place on a buy limit, and I put the buy limit on. Stop was below around 4.2 pips, 4.5 pips, and then the target was initially into here. So I was looking for a 10R position to trade up. Now, as we see, the market did come down, reacted very, very nicely, and started running to the upside. And I actually ended up closing this trade at 4R. Now, the reason for this was I knew before I entered the US interest rate decision was coming up, and I didn't want to trade through that because obviously that was very likely to, cause a lot of volatility in the trade. Another thing worth mentioning as well is the US plans to raise interest rates all year this year, 3 times this year, and even neutral outcomes, so no change, has generally been bullish for the dollar over the past 2 years. So I figure basically any interest rate release that comes up this year is likely to be bullish for the US dollar. So what I decided to do when the trade was running at 4R around this area here was close out my position. Now these aren't my exact levels. I got out of this dead on 4R and it was just a little bit lower. So my stop loss must have been smaller. My entry must have been closer. 5.7 and 5.14, I believe, with the levels I went into the trade with. So I closed out for 4R at around that level, as I mentioned. And what I did here was close 75% of my position. So I took a net profit of 3R. Now, what does that do? Cover all of the losses I just took and leave a quarter of the trade open in case the interest rate release goes good for me. Now, as we'll see, the interest rate release did not go good as I anticipated. We did get a large wick up, but then the market sold dramatically off. And what it did was stop me out in profit, very small profit, that is, just under here. So this was around a 3.1, 3.2R net gain trade. And then the market did dramatically sell off as I did originally anticipate it to. But what this did here, collecting that 3.1 to 3.2R, just in this very simple trade, actually wiped out the 3 losses I took previously. And that is a very important thing to consider and keep in mind when you are taking a losing streak of your own, right? I lost 3 trades in a row. And then by simply taking this one position in line with my system, I win it all back. And now I have a fresh, clean slate and I'm back at 19.5R for the month of January, which is insane. It's really, really good profit. Very steady trading as well. I don't trade every day. I've maybe taken, between 10 and maybe 12 positions this month. And from that pulled in 20R. And that includes the 3 losses that I took, as well as 1 loss that I took in the first week of the year as well. So with around 6 winners and 4 losses, that's 20R pulled in. And really that is enough for the month. But as you can see, the biggest takeaway from this is you only need 1 good trade to actually handle a losing streak. If you want to put a losing streak behind you, you can do that by simply applying your system, staying focused, staying disciplined, staying with real expectations of what your system provides and how often it wins and how often it loses. And in the long run, you're going to come out on top as long as you can do that. Essentially, you want to wire yourself to trade like a robot. You just want to continually apply the system over and over again. Don't start changing your system because people say you should. Don't start changing your system because you feel like it's not working anymore. Instead of doing that, go back and review your past performance, review your past data, and that will tell you whether or not you need to change the system. If your long-term results are positive using this system and you've overcome losing streaks before and losses before, there is no need to change what you're doing. Stay calm, stay collected, stay disciplined, and keep applying that system as you were when it was working perfectly. That is the biggest difference between successful traders and those who lose. The ability to stay disciplined and the ability to continually apply the same system through the good times and the bad times. When things are going good, you don't think twice about it. But when things are going bad, you do start to get nervous and you do start to make changes and you do start to ruin something that works perfectly well. Cut that out and you will begin to see more consistency in your trading. And I guarantee that if you do that long enough and you stay strong with your mental game, you are going to become a consistent, successful, profitable trader. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's given you a few talking points and helped you out, because I know everyone hits losing streaks and some people don't know how to manage them.